Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today I'm once again answering some of your questions, such as, are there too many limited editions in today's market? And as a first-time watch buyer, should you pick a vintage Rolex or a modern Omega? All that and more in today's episode. Now, of course, before we get started, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing my Girard-Perregaux Laureato Evo 3 Moonphase Big Date Power Reserve. It's been a very long time since I've worn this. I actually have to size the bracelet. It's just flopping around here. But absolutely love it. And also, guys, don't forget to check out DelReyWatch.com. A bunch of new watches have hit our inventory. 3 of the highlights are an extremely rare Omega Museum Series modern reissue calendar, a Grand Seiko high beat diver, least expensive one in the country by far, an absolute killer deal, and a pretty rare Omega Speedmaster Schumacher limited edition with the beautiful red dial, also the least expensive in the country. And it actually was the only one in the country when we first got it in. All that and way more at DelReyWatch.com, the best place for a watch geek to buy a watch. Link in the description below. Anyway, guys, these are the questions you ask me on my Instagram account at Federico Talks Watches. A few times a month, the Q&A picture pops up. When it does, feel free to ask your question. When I get enough questions, I delete the picture. Please do not DM me. I do not check them. And in no particular order, we start with AJV Cipriano. And he says, hey Fed, would you recommend a brand new Omega watch or a pre-owned vintage Rolex as the first entry-level luxury watch? This is a tough question, but my answer is entirely based on my experience and my opinion. Now, while I love vintage Rolex, if you're a first-time luxury watch buyer, go with a modern Omega. You have less to worry about. Not so much to worry about the water resistance. You'll be under warranty most likely if you buy it brand new. You also don't have to worry much about service. It's just a better entry point into first-time luxury watch buying ownership. Nothing wrong with vintage Rolex, but I recommend, and vintage Rolex, by the way, is probably the most reliable vintage watch you can get, but I don't recommend the world of vintage unless you've owned a few mechanical and luxury watches first. It's just an easier ownership experience in my opinion, and that's why I would say go modern Omega. Ryan Edmond says, you've always talked about this watch or that watch that you love that you'll pick up someday. What do you think is the next watch you'll buy? Well, this is really tough because I don't actually know. So I just bought the Creedor as my travel watch. I wore it in my last video. And yes, I do mention I'll pick this up someday in videos, but to me, yes, I have a list of like what I'd like to pick up, but when I pick something up is entirely based on opportunity, right? There's a lot of watches I want to own, a lot of them which will be keepers forever, and a lot of which won't be, and I just want to experience them. But I buy them based on opportunity. I don't go out thinking, this FP Journe is the next watch I'm going to buy. No, it's when one of the watches I want to buy pops up at the right price, at the right point in my life, that's when I pick it up, right? It's all about the right time, the right price, the right itch at that time being scratched. So I leave myself open to opportunity, and I actually think, not to toot my own horn, that that's the best way to buy and collect watches. Will Schaub. Hey Fed, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the modern iteration of the Cartier Santos. Would you go medium or large? Would you go for a model with PVD bezel to avoid scratches on the high polish? Well, Will, I wasn't a huge fan of the modern Santos, but it is growing on me. I think medium or large is subjective. For me, I would definitely go large. However, what is not subjective, at least, well, I guess it is subjective, but you'll see what I mean in a second. I definitely would not go with PVD. Apart from the fact that I think the PVD bezel version is absolutely hideous and looks like a Frankenstein watch, the thing is, PVD cannot be polished. So if you get a scratch in the PVD, which is harder to scratch than the high polish, it's almost impossible to get it looking right again. You have to send it back to Cartier to get it recoated. Whereas if you get a scratch on the high polish, it can be polished out in seconds, most likely. Not to mention that I don't really think scratches are a big deal, in my opinion. I just don't like the PVD because I think it's ugly. However, you know, to further answer your question, the PVD is not a good thing if you're looking for something that won't attract scratches. While it is harder to scratch than the high polish, once it is scratched, it is pretty much scratched for good. And Papa Courage says, don't you think there's an inflation of limited edition these days? How does one keep up? One doesn't keep up. I mean, there are too many limited editions. I can't focus on everything that's coming out. I focus on what I like. Half the time, I don't even care if something's a limited edition. Limited editions nowadays, people make a limited edition of 999 pieces or of 3,000 pieces. That's not limited. Those are easily available. I consider anything under 100 pieces to be limited edition, and even under 50 pieces if it's a very small brand. Limited edition is just a buzzword to try and sell more watches. Last but not least, we have my good friend Menta Watches, and he says, oh, this is a very important question. He asks, how are you so sexy? I think he's referring to me. Adam, some things just can't be explained in words, and better yet, are left unexplained. But it is what it is. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for sticking around. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really does help. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any more content. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Take care.